idea that there is no complete unity within the Bangsamoro. We're going to concede that this is true, but this is also something that you have to subsume under your case. Under your case, all of those conflicts are still happening, are currently happening, and whatever form of government we take, there is going to be some degree of internal disagreement. Next thing we have to cater to is the idea of the mediator. Both sides agree that somebody should be there to mediate the process. The question then becomes, who should that mediator be? Opposition proposed to you that the national government should act as the mediator, but government finds a lot of problems with this. Firstly is that obviously the national government has its own inherent interests, which oftentimes go against the interests of the national. In case you might have forgotten, that's the reason why we have this motion in the first place. The compliance mechanism was so important. One of the reasons why there is a lot of division right now is even due to the fact that there is cooperation with the national government. Individuals are not willing to submit themselves to the tyranny of an institution, or individuals who operate with an institution who are viewed as being perpetuators of historical injustices. Please sit down. Let's contrast this to what government provided you with, the international community. This community, unlike the national government, has not participated directly in those historical injustices, has not demonstrated the same preference for the national government or its own interests. But secondly is we have to address their alternative, which they threw out very quickly, and which is actually a little bit alarming: federalism. Now, we have to analyze, ladies and gentlemen, what exactly this means and how likely their actual alternative is to work. We think that federalism is a lot less likely to happen than even the secession of the Bangsamoro for a lot of reasons. Firstly, if the Bangsamoro secedes, what the national government loses is the Bangsamoro. What happens if federalism is pushed for is that the national government, which has historically been hyper-centralized, which has taken a lot of our taxes from Mindanao and sent them to Imperial Manila, please forgive me, is going to lose everybody. They're going to lose a very large slice of revenue all over the Philippines. And that means that the political resistance is going to be so much more. That conflict is only going to intensify. That's something that we have to answer. But next, let's talk about this alternative of empowerment through laws, which, yes, we've tried to do that. You have not explained to us, under any circumstances, why all of this empowerment, which we've been trying and fighting so hard to do, which we have made so many concessions in order to do, is going to work in the future, when in the past it hasn't. You haven't provided us any alternative mechanism or even any kind of difference in what we are actually seeking for. But next, ladies and gentlemen, is the most important question. We don't only have to compare in this debate who has a higher likelihood of success, we also have to compare who has a better goal, and what goal is better aligned with the interests of the Bangsamoro people. Let us assume that their policy succeeds. These people are subsumed within the state, but they have a certain extent of limited rights, or etc. Or let's assume the BBL eventually gets passed. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind you that the version of the BBL, which was recently rejected and which shows very little chance of being accepted in the future, is already an extremely heavily diluted version of the immigration people are trying to fight for and trying to defend. Despite all of those concessions, it failed. What this tells us, ladies and gentlemen, is that we want a chance for the national government to actually accept us and give us the rights which we deserve. We have to make even more concessions. And the more concessions we make, which, by the way, we do not have historical obligation to make, the less we actually fight for our initial identity. We don't think that's something that the Bangsamoro people want. We don't think that's a goal that they will be willing to fight for. But yes, what is the likelihood of your secessionist government to grant all rights to its constituents? Very Okay, firstly, I would like to remind you that your federal government and the national government already does not grant equal rights to individuals, especially within the Bangsamoro. So by answering that, I'm expecting that you are going to provide me some answer. Two, but secondly, let's talk about the incentives, what they talk about. It's true, ladies and gentlemen, that within the Bangsamoro, there is a sort of tribal mentality, that maybe there are some individuals with more power than others. But we think, ladies and gentlemen, that the identity that these individuals share with each other is much stronger than those particular differences. It's much stronger than the identity that is subsumed under the national government. You have to remember that even though there is a difference of opinion, these individuals have been fighting together. Together they are the ones who are appealing for their own freedom and their rights. They are united in injustice. They are united in having had their ancestral lands taken away. They are united with being deprived of development in the 60 to 70% by by their region is given to the national government so that we can build another skyway in Manila or whatever. That particular unity, that particular political oppression is something that is much stronger than petty conflicts. Furthermore, we think that because political institutions already exist within these particular places, like obviously these people have governors, they have mayors, individuals who are already cooperating together to some extent to forward the interests of the Bangsamoro people, we think at the very least there is an existing political framework to prevent that sort of oppression. But the second, last level of analysis on that particular level is the way in which new states are created. Obviously, when we create new constitutions or when we create new states, we don't allow these individuals to be explicitly abusive, especially when we need the consent or at least the recognition of the international community. That means that when they create their state, there is an inherent incentive for them to enshrine in their constitution, to enshrine in their laws, the ability of individuals to have their rights, individuals to be treated equally, etc., the same way in which our national government did the same thing. Before I continue, any more points?
If these particular people in the Bangsamoro is so united and they comprise a majority of population, what exactly is the point of you saying that there's no enough political drive for you to forward federalism and why it's more likely to happen?
Okay, I think maybe you misunderstood the argument. The drive for federalism isn't a problem within the Bangsamoro, it's everywhere else. It is the national government that is not going to consent because it is the national government, obviously, that is going to lose out on its political clout and its etc. Please stop grasping at straws. The last thing I'm going to talk about, ladies and gentlemen, is something a bit hugot and something close to my heart. What exactly does it mean to be Filipino, or not Filipino, but what does it mean to be a citizen for a particular state, to be able to belong somewhere? It means being able to identify with that community, to say proudly that this is my heritage, this is who I am. It means, ladies and gentlemen, the ability to be treated fairly and justly by your government, to trust the people who are governing you, not to be ruled by individuals who are taking your land, taking your money, taking away your ability to develop, and expect you to be grateful for it, and call you traitors. We think, ladies and gentlemen, if we want these individuals to accept their own identity, we cannot force them to accept an identity that has historically repressed them. We think that it's an insult to their identity as the Bangsamoro people, and we think they deserve better. Thank you.